Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Or if you're new here, welcome to another edition of Kingly Conversations. This week, we got another hot one for you. But before we get to all that, Zoe has some shout-outs.
Hey, I want to shout out to Bert. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being an avid listener. Also, Dennis out there, man. Can't wait to hear from you. Thank you for listening. And everyone out there who's been following along, we appreciate you.
So this week, we're going to get into it about why you can still win. So strap in. Let the Kings talk about it. Hey, everybody, welcome back again for another edition of Kingly Conversations. Listen, as I am every single week, I'm Alan.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Twine, a.k.a. Bam Bam Bam. There it is. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back.
It's your friend, your mentor, Calvin D. Hill.
All right. See, that was easy, right? That was easy.
What?
For those that can't tell, we changed up the intro. You know, we got a little something different we trying to do here out in these podcast streets.
You know I don't do change well. That's my problem.
You know,
that's my problem.
I understand that, but here's the problem.
This is my issue.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with
itching,
that.
y'all.
Here's the problem with that. I wrote this down a month ago and asked for input and got crickets.
Because I don't do change well. That's why. But I also, again, I had to see it. So I saw it. I understand now.
Okay.
Anyway, let's get to it.
Well, y'all got the topic, man. Let's get into it.
So listen, I wanted to talk about this only because I know a lot of the time, you know, in society, sometimes it feels like you can't get to the goals, dreams, aspirations that you have. But my mindset is no matter what stands in your way, no matter the obstacle, you still can win. But there's caveats to what I mean by winning, because I don't think everybody can win, but I think you can win. Especially if you're somebody that's currently listening to a podcast like this one. I think you can win, but I don't think everybody can win, if that makes sense. And I know that sounds like a contradiction because we've been brought up to think that if one person can do it, everybody can do it. And that's just a lie from the pit of hell.
You want to know why?
Not the pit.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because everybody don't put in that work.
Everybody don't put in that work. Everybody doesn't necessarily have the same opportunity. Everybody doesn't start in the same place. And everybody's not willing. So that's some of the things that we're going to end up talking about over the course of this episode.
Makes sense. I like it.
So the first thing I thought of really when I talk about that everybody can't win, but you can win, is for everybody that's trying to get to whatever goal that they have, whatever dream, goal, aspiration they've got, there's a combination of activity, fortunate events, the people around you, and just being ready for those opportunities that have to conspire together to actually allow you to win. You're not going to win just because you want to win. You're not going to, but there are going to be things that have to happen that are fortunate. And sometimes, so even I'll use the model of, let's say FUBU, because, you know, a lot of people watch Shark Tank and so they know of Damon John. And when I listened to his story, there was several series of fortunate events, as well as just being a brash New Yorker, that enabled FUBU to succeed. Mm-hmm. Right. And everybody else might not have been able to do that. The opportunities, the luck. I mean, because they happen to know, because one of the things that helped them out was the fact that LL Cool J lived essentially in the same hood that they lived in. Mm-hmm. So everybody knew where LL Cool J lived. So they went and took a picture, asked LL to wear the shirt, because he was still in the neighborhood, still just, you know, hanging out in Hollis, Queens. So he was still in the neighborhood. It wasn't like was big and was gone, like what happened today. He was still living in the same place. So they went over to his house, got him to essentially take a picture with the shirt, And then they would use that picture with the shirt to say, hey, LL Cool J supports it. That's how they were actually getting their buyers and whatnot to put their stuff in stores, by saying LL Cool J was wearing their stuff. And then just, so there's what I'm saying is there's always going to be some level of the universe, God, whatever people want to call it, conspiring to do you good. But everybody, I wouldn't have that opportunity. Like, my clothing line doesn't have the opportunity to have LL Cool J wear anything, especially not at this point. Now, could I get, John Brown, the Norfolk rapper? Maybe.
Gotta get the clips or
hey, shout out to John Brown.
Nope, they too big rapper. Too.
You can't catch them.
I mean, they too
but like
big
you
too.
said,
why would they wear mine over people they already know?
So you're saying like the combination of fortune and work meeting at the perfect opportunity created that win for him.
Absolutely. One of my mentors said it this way. A guy named Roy Tatum. He said that luck stood for labor under correct knowledge. And that's what would create the luck. Is you doing the work with correct knowledge of your situation that allows you to have what most people would call luck, or a series of fortunate events. Because again, some people probably didn't even think. I'm sure other people were probably trying to start clothing lines at the same time. Did they think about going and talking to LL Cool J? Maybe. Did they actually go over there? Probably not. Did they actually camp outside and wait till they caught him coming outside? Probably not. I mean, how many people today are you gonna go camp outside of Pusha T's house? Pharrell's house? You gonna camp until you see him.
Until you see him.
Gonna hang out on
do what you gotta do.
Street until what?
You gonna learn how to sew so you can make your own clothing, like physically, get the fabric and sew your own stuff together.
I would like to do that.
But that's all. That's what I mean when I say a combination of activity, fortunate events, and the people around you. Because if they hadn't. Again, if you had grown up in North Carolina versus Queens, New York, that opportunity wouldn't have presented itself. You might have had to find Petey Pablo or something, and see if he could get y'all twirling your T-shirt around in the video or something. But you would have it would have been somebody else.
Okay.
So that's why that first one is there, because a combination of fortunate events and people and all these things.
Everybody won't be willing to go through the things they need to, or see the win, or need to. What is that? Need to end? What is that?
I don't know, but what's this? Everybody essentially they ain't gonna be willing to go through the things they need to.
It's gonna take sacrifice. It's gonna take some hardship. Because it comes with the sunshine, so you gotta be able to take both the good and the bad. And most people they don't want to see that. They don't want to go.
They don't put in that work. It's just a lot of work and sacrifice, like you said, that people aren't willing to deal with.
Yeah, they just want the end result. They don't want to go through what most people in success, or what you would consider to be successful. They don't want to go through that. They just want the end result.
But your attitude is with that everybody can do it, or everybody can't.
Everybody
do
can't
it.
do it.
Can't do it.
But you can do it. This meaning that individuals can do it, but groups probably can't do it. And the reason for that is just that, because as a group, what everybody's level of sacrifice is going to be different. Like, there are things that I was willing to sacrifice when I was single that I am not willing to sacrifice as a married person.
Time out. Say that over.
Man, I don't remember what I said. What I said?
Say it over.
What I say?
What did you say?
Groups won't be able to do it.
Oh yeah, individuals can.
Individuals' level of sacrifice is different.
Yes, and here's the thing. And here's what I'll say. And I will say that's okay.
But that's okay.
That's okay, because everybody is not. So here's what I say. People have this preconceived notion, because most people's idea of success is purely monetary based, purely money based, right? And so most people's idea of success, everybody has a different level of what they want. Mm-hmm. And everybody has a different level of sacrifice they're willing to give for what they want. Mm-hmm. They also tend to, people also, because this is what we've been taught, tend to believe that more money purely, more money will buy you happiness. Now, more money will change your circumstances and the opportunities that you have to create happiness. But there are plenty of wealthy people that are depressed, miserable, and suicidal. So it can't just be the money. Right? So that's why that's why I say groups, because groups are all individuals can succeed. Groups,
it's rare. It's
well,
you don't see it
because
often.
Because everybody wants something different. Like I said, and sometimes what happens is the thing that people want changes over time. Because when I was in my 20s, I wanted some dumb big 10,000 square foot house, but why?
And
it's just. Now what I would prefer to have is 5 2,000 square foot houses and rent 4 of them out.
Yeah.
Or an apartment building that has 10,000 total square feet and rent all the units out. That's 10 units I could then rent out. That's what I would prefer now over myself living in a 10,000 square foot house.
So that ties into the educational portion.
It does.
Like when you, in your younger years, you was thinking, all right, I want this extravagant big compound XYZ, but when you got older, got wiser, and got educated, you figured that.
Yeah, well, and I think some part of that is I'm a child of the hip hop generation, so everything in hip hop,
big luxurious,
is about today.
The flash
is about the flash. But when hip hop started, it wasn't about the flash. It was about we got to get out of this oppression situation. But then once they want, the problem is what's important to you is what's in the moment. So when you oppression is important. Once you feel like you got some money, you don't feel as oppressed. You still may be, but you don't feel as oppressed. So now it's all about the wrist is chipped up to charm the flash.
That's a bar for you,
as
man.
Jay-Z said.
Huh?
So
y'all listening?
So that's why I say that. So it's the education piece, because as you grow, hopefully you learn.
Well, yeah. Hopefully you do. You don't get stuck in the mundane way of thinking.
I mean, hopefully, if you're reading. But I find that a lot of people don't.
You don't need to read. What you need to read for?
Apparently you don't, man.
Just watch TV.
That's what I heard. I got to stop reading.
Watch all these. They got some nice shows out here.
I know. I heard Calvin was watching Blackish.
Yeah. Education.
Again.
Black people what?
Misquoted.
Misquoted.
Don't worry, people. That came from a conversation we were having prior to the start of this here podcast.
But I didn't watch it.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
No, man, I'm sitting here stewing on what he's saying. This is what I'm eating right now. Hold on.
So here's the other part of the educational issues. I'm not necessarily talking about standardized school-based education.
No.
I'm talking about self-education in the areas that you want to succeed in, right? Because you could be dumber than a box of rocks, but you are the best financial advisor on the planet.
Push the button, man.
There you go. Push the button for you.
But you also, as far as education, got to put yourself around people that are like-minded as far as what you're trying to achieve. That's another way you can get educated, if you get a mentor or something like that to kind of push you and guide you in the right direction. That's as far as the educational part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because if not, you're going to be running around here with Joe Smuckatelli.
Man, I got to download this podcast.
What?
I got to download this podcast right now.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
So you got education.
So I got a question.
Go ahead.
What's up, Calvin? What you pondering on over there? Because your face.
Listen.
Huh?
Listen.
I'm listening.
I am too.
Okay.
Hey, okay.
All right.
Oh man. So
download the podcast, Kingly Conversations. I promise you, if you listen, stop and listen. Enjoy your ride home, but listen to what is being said. Use it and apply it, and I promise you, your life will change. Now back to the show.
All right. Little segue. Okay.
So I mean, that's education is gonna have a piece, but I'm not talking about, again, we're not talking about school. We're not talking now. School is a component of education, but we're talking about self-educating yourself in the area that you want to go in.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what do you say to those people who say that I was born in these circumstances and it's just like that it's going to be difficult for me to win? Like what would you say to that?
The best thing I ever heard somebody say about those types of situations, and that, is that you may have further to go, but you have more to gain. And I was like, man, but that's one of those things that, I'm sorry, hang on. That's one of those things that somebody has to be there. Like, so we're still talking about those relationships because somebody's got to be there to say that at the right time to the right person. Mm-hmm. Because you could say that to 100 people and only one person hear it. And that's what also makes success a challenge is when the person, we always say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? And it really, the teacher was always there and the teacher has always been saying the same thing. You just weren't ready to hear it yet. And now when you heard it was when you were ready to hear it, because it's been said, there is nothing new under the sun, right? So you just were ready to hear it when you finally caught it. But there are people, because I would say certainly if you're born into a situation where you are generally where you don't have to, you're not concerned every night about what you're going to eat. You're not concerned about every night about if you're going to wake up the next day or somebody, so you're not born into tough situations. It does make it easier to focus on these other things because you don't have to worry about. You don't have to be like, I don't know what I'm gonna eat today, and that's all you think about all day.
Right. It's I forget whose law it is. It talks about the level of survival. Like once you get past survival, then you can go to
Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah, it's that because you're in such a state of survival for like the circumstances in the hood or whatever else. You're in such a state of survival, you can't go into that level of wants. You just worried about
the needs.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people don't hit these. Okay, I can go start a business. I can go do this, that, and the third, and come into a level of prosperity because I'm worried about my basic needs.
And that's tough. So for those of you that haven't heard of it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a pyramid, and essentially at the bottom you have your physiological needs, which is air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and reproduction. So it's basically saying that is the base level for humans, period, that they're going to be concerned with. And it's not until all of those things are met that then you're going to move on to safety needs, which is personal security, employment, resources, health, and property, right? And then once those needs get met, then you move on to love and belonging, which is friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection to society.
Hey, it's real. It's real. Go ahead. Go to the next. So each one, you can't go to the next level until all of them are met. Yep. Once they're met, then you can go to the next level. Now, listen to this next one.
And when we say met, you feel like they're met.
Yeah.
Not because you may be cool. Like some people are like they legit love 68-cent ramen, and they gonna feel like they need met. They get a box of 50 of those. They good. But then other people are gonna be like, you want that? No, I can't rock with that. I can't get jiggy with these. So then with the next level after love and belonging is going to be esteem, and this is where respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom come in. And then that last step is self-actualization, which is the desire to become the most that one can be. When essentially I know who I am, I know what I can do. Now I just got to go maximize this deal.
In between that 3 and 4 is where I feel like a lot of people in our culture get stuck in.
That's probably true.
3 and 4?
Yep. In between steps 3 and 4, we cycle through those 2 steps.
Love and belonging and esteem?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because we often get thrown back into that 3.
That's probably true. If you...
Especially with your work.
Yeah, because, if you... Unless you are really down on your luck, you probably... In the United States, specifically.
Right.
The vast majority of people aren't going to be worried about 1 and 2.
Right.
because they feel like those needs. The only people that don't feel like those needs are met are people that are at what society calls the lowest levels of society. They may not feel like those needs are met, but the vast majority of people are going to have some level of food. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't millions of people that are without. But when you're dealing with 330 million people, if you got 4 million of them, it's going to be a lot of people. But per capita, it's not a lot of people. But for those people, it's everybody. So, what were we talking about on that?
All right, so
I don't even remember now.
Jumping back.
You were just talking about the people in their circumstances and how they
That's
were
what brought up
into,
the hierarchy.
Yeah, because those circumstances will make it more difficult. Because if your stomach is growling, it's hard to think about anything other than
It's
that.
hard to listen. It's hard to learn when you're out there starving.
So how do you think some kids in poverty feel? So when they talk about they can't educate, they can't learn, or whatever else, you know why? Because they're in survival mode.
Yeah.
They feel like these needs aren't being met.
Some of these
so
kids.
how could I? Yep.
Some of these kids only eat at school.
So how could I?
Some of these kids only get to eat at school.
So who's, you know what?
Let's move on, man. We can't jump into that too deep.
Because then I'm going to say,
here's the thing.
Why does a child feel like they need to be in survival mode?
But they have no choice
They don't have a
because
choice.
they don't
Why?
have
Because you know
of-
why a child feels like he needs to be in survival mode?
I'm listening.
Because he was born into that situation that wasn't their fault,
right.
but that's what they were born into. No different than you, I, or Calvin were born into the situations we were born into. They were born into the situation they were born into, and unfortunately, it ain't their fault.
So you're preconditioned.
Whose fault is it?
It's definitely it depends. Because guess what? It could be their
I'll wait.
parents' fault.
I'm not going to go off into this tangent. I'm not going to go off into this
It could
tangent.
be their parents'
I'm
fault.
not going off into this tangent.
It could be society's fault.
We're not going off in this tangent.
I'm not going down that road. I'm just saying.
I'm just trying to hurt somebody's feelings.
There,
look.
there are in this society there are enough people to pass the blame around to, and
All right,
everybody's got a role.
Let's move on. I'm sorry.
Because again, that child did nothing to nobody.
That's a sensitive topic for me. So let's move on.
You can still win.
You can, if you are listening to this podcast, man. You hear me? You can still win despite all of that.
All right, watch this.
You
ready? Okay.
Not the person next to you.
I'm glad.
You.
I'm so glad these next two we get to indulge in just briefly because we kind of touched on it. Family situations and I'm gonna tie in people actually being the crabs in the barrel. They're having that having that mentality because you got a lot of people out here that I know I can build something outside of my family because my family would be like, nah, you ain't gonna do this.
I need a clip.
You ain't gonna do that.
I need a clip of Bernie Mac in the house party. The part of my sentiments for this part, but I can't do it.
The one when they were at the dinner table?
Mm-hmm.
If people don't like it when you're being who you are. Yeah.
So that is real because with family, I found out it's tougher to deal with them when you're trying to be more than what you are.
Yeah.
They have a tendency to try to keep you
What they're used to,
with
and
their
what
conception, what their perspective
what they're
is.
comfortable with.
Yeah.
I got to,
what they're comfortable with.
I got to see this early on, and it was fortunate for me. And this is when shout out again to Roy Tatum, because inside the world that we were in, he was a rock star, superstar. Inside the world that we were in, but I was fortunate enough, and I didn't know this, coming in. I didn't know who he was until after the fact, until I found out that Calvin was his cousin, and then I'm like, oh. So we don't know a lot of the same people. And to those people, he was still just Roy. who he'd always been. I was like, oh, so that really is how family is going to always be. Don't matter where
no matter
you
what
get
success
to.
you've had in a different
You
arena,
still
they will
you
always
still little so and so,
Yep.
little pumpkin butt, whatever the name
Yep.
is that they have for you. That's
no,
who,
that's
who
real.
you
That's
gonna be.
because that's all they associate you with, and not until they see you in a different light do they associate you with. Like you said, let's use Roy for example. Okay, I know Roy as cousin.
Right.
Stay up late, having fun, playing Techno Bowl, outside in the backyard, playing.
Yeah, family man,
Fun.
cousin, peoples.
Roy Tatum, $100,000 ring earner,
Yeah,
leader,
political leader too.
activist.
Absolutely.
I mean, moving the world.
Mm-hmm.
I know him as Roy. Other people know him as
This
a great
successful
figure, a
young
great
boy.
public
Yeah,
figure.
Yeah.
I had to learn to relearn Roy
Who he was.
to know, okay, this Roy. I had to disassociate cousin Roy from this political figure Roy to reintroduce him.
So, like, when you was going through this transition of a learning period of how to look or perceive your cousin differently, while y'all was in public, did he act differently in the process?
That was the thing. This is the part that people don't do.
What's that?
Separate. Disassociate. Because for 2004 when you were in Legal Shield, okay, you knew him then.
That was I probably hadn't even met. I met him prior to 2004 because remember when we were in Iraq and I found out he was your cousin. I was like, oh no, we got to call him for
Yeah.
before
All
we
right.
do that, we got to call him.
So
I
let
probably met him
me
in
fill in the
2002,
blank for you.
2003.
From 1998 when his mom passed. It was 8. No, it's probably wasn't that late. But around there, we lost connection. He went to Virginia State. He disassociated himself with a lot of the family. He separated himself in pursuit of.
Yep.
He separated himself because he knew he was going to become. He already had in his mind what I'm after. He was on Capitol Hill by 2002, somewhere around there. So it was an automatic, oh, nah, bro, I love you, but I'm no longer little cousin playing in the dirt, Roy. You have no association with me now as an adult, Roy. You don't know who I am. You're in that cocoon. Like people say, you got to go become a caterpillar, go in a cocoon, but before you become that butterfly. That's what that time period was. It was a time period where I didn't know where, who, or what Roy was doing, even though that was a close cousin. See what I'm saying?
I understand. So I got just a random question. Why do people feel as if they need to disassociate themselves with family in order to succeed?
Because as long as I associate with what was, I will never become what will be. As long as I stay in that same circle, that same environment, that same attitude, saying, "Oh, you little baby, little cousin, little play, let her." As long as you want to stay with this group, you will always be in this group.
Is that like in the black community though?
Yes, that's always in the black community.
It's
not
I mean,
just
it's
black,
not
but
exclusively
it's common.
that.
As long as you can hang with the hood and you want to hang with your boys, you will always be like that.
So here's what I think it also is in some respects. Since we brought the black communities, we are more communal in nature. So some other cultures find it easier, like to disassociate. Like if there's one thing that a lot of the times people find out about families is that, you know, our families generally, not mine, but are close knit, meaning that until like Big Mama or somebody passes, and then that kind of, but somebody has always been throughout history holding the family together.
Right.
And then that person may pass on and then you become fractured. But somebody generally is holding the family together throughout time. And then all of it until one day when that stops happening. But so I think that's part of it, because there are a whole lot of people not from black communities that I ain't seen my brother in years. I ain't seen my daddy in years. And to most of us, that's just depending on your upbringing. That's just a weird situation.
But I think to me, it's fine if the standard, if you set a standard, if you set a bar for your family. Okay, I'm like this, and people not going to agree with me, and I understand it, it's fine. If you don't have a standard of a lifestyle, of education, whatever else it is in life, if you have to disassociate yourself from people because they're not pursuing more or meeting that bar, do that. That's one thing. We might not get along, but me and my dad agree on that. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to meet a certain standard of living, if you don't want to do certain things, if you don't want to almost live an excellent, prosperous, or whatever lifestyle, I can't hang with you like that.
Got you. Well, I'll just say this so we can move on. I wish more families, I don't care what ethnic background you are, I wish more families were more supportive. Yeah, that way you wouldn't have to
but again, that goes back
to have a feeling that you needed to disassociate yourself.
Right. But okay, if your family, let's say you want to own a home or you want to be whatever, and your family is against that, then you have to. But if your family is supportive and they want to do that, they want you to be whatever it is. I want you to be educated. I'm supporting you.
That's what I say. I wish more families were like that. But I know it's not reality. But
some families are. Some families are.
I've seen. That's what I'm saying. I've seen both sides where the family was disruptive as far as somebody progressing and growing versus on the other side where you have family that's more supportive and like, hey man, you can do it and all that other good stuff.
And the other thing we got to remember when we're talking about, family and having a we're talking about for a time period. Some people, sure, you may have to work, and there's also levels of disassociation because if you're busy, then you're gonna automatically end up cutting people off anyway because you just don't have time.
That's a part
for everybody else. That's just where it's gonna be. If you've got things moving and you got things going and you're trying to move towards something, there are just gonna be some people that you won't have time to spend time with anyway, right? You'll spend time with the most important people in your groups, but you might not spend time with everybody in the group. And so what we would call that is kind of limited association. Maybe you used to spend you're trying to get something done, and maybe y'all used to get together 3 or 4 times a week on like Xbox Live or PlayStation Network or whatever and game, and now maybe it's 1 day a week, or now maybe 1 day a month, or maybe disassociation would be just not at all. But maybe you dial that back so that you can accomplish some other things.
You can still win.
And you can still win. You can definitely still win.
I see what you're doing over there. I like it.
But again,
keep that same energy.
Everybody can't, but you can.
That's true. I think that's a good wrapping point for, unless y'all have any more topics that y'all, or any key points, because we kind of touched on
you hit a lot of that.
Yeah.
All other than the more obstacles.
He already discussed that too, because we said that if you come from circumstances that are not in your favor, then you would have to work harder to do so, or to achieve. You would probably have to do more, and more obstacles you have to overcome. So we definitely talked about a lot of this stuff, man. The ultimate lifestyle of one person cannot be the same for another. Stop looking. I'll let y'all take that one. But as far as what you see, trying to achieve things, and we kind of touched on that before too.
We did.
The flash.
I know it.
Of the culture.
I think you also, at some point too, you have to decide on what it is that you want, and know that the things that you want will change. Because like I said, what I wanted at 20 is not what I want now. What I wanted at 30 is not necessarily what I want now. Because I used to always be like, I want to get the Lamborghini because I like Lamborghini better than Ferrari. But as far as their style, and now I do realize Lamborghinis are also like driving an untamed animal from what I've heard. But I also found out that the vast majority of people that have these cars, they don't drive them. And I like to drive. But is putting 100,000 miles on a Lamborghini make any sense? Or should I just get a Subaru WRX? Or an Audi? So if you really like driving, should you just get a car that you know you can drive everywhere?
Yeah.
So that's why I say the things that you want will change once you figure out what it is that you really want.
That's the first thing, figuring it out.
And most people never really get to figure it out, you know.
Unfortunately.
All right.
Calvin?
Hey, man, that was beautiful. I'm going to
can
download
win.
this podcast.
Any closing thoughts?
I don't have any.
You can still win.
That's it.
No matter what, man, you can
No matter
still
what,
win.
you can still win.
Difficulties may be at a higher or lower level, wherever you are, but you can still win. That's all I got, man.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Yeah.